You are listening to Power Marketing with Kevin Lee. Kevin and his agency Did It have helped thousands of businesses win through superior marketing, as have his books, articles, speaking engagements, and the E-Marketing Association Power Marketing podcasts. Here's Kevin.
I'm here today with Andrew Hazen, whose current gig is primarily LongIsland.com, but he's got so many things going on concurrently. I'll let him talk about it. He and I have known each other for well over a dozen years, and to some extent competed in the past. But it's a small world in the digital marketing category. So a pleasure to have you on the EMA podcast, Andrew.
Thanks, Kevin. Great to be here. And yes, we always play nice in the digital sandbox.
Exactly. So why don't we start with what you're up to now with LongIsland.com and go backwards with the things you're still doing, because I think you're still doing domaining, you're still doing bobbleheads, you've got bagels still on your mind. So,
sure.
Why don't we talk about how you're applying your marketing and business acumen across publishing, across retail, across domaining, and I guess collectibles.
Sure, absolutely. It's an interesting backstory because I actually tried to acquire LongIsland.com back in 07, 08 when I had the full service digital agency. At the time, the guys from InVision in Long Island owned it, and it went out for bid. This is back before the Domain Fest days. And I actually got outbid on the domain. I think I bid up to $250,000 and I got outbid, and that was it. Went about my business, and 8-10 years later, I bumped into the owner who outbid me, and he was curious to know if I was still interested in procuring the name. This is about a year before COVID hit, and thought I would be able to purchase it for the offer that I put out back in 07, 08, which wasn't the case, because he built it out to a real business with about 7 people, 500 advertisers. And after doing some due diligence and going through everything, I successfully completed the acquisition about 2.5 years ago. We're coming up on. So as you said in the intro, as a digital guy and domainer, getting my hands on LongIsland.com with the traffic and the domain portfolio that came with it, there's about 200 plus Long Island related domains. A handful are built out. Most of them aren't. But if you can imagine, from Long Island restaurants, Long Island hotels, Long Island schools, Long Island universities, Long Island airport, you name it, we own the .com. So traffic is up about 40% from when I took over. We're hitting about a million uniques a month and growing. And it's interesting because when I acquired the business, LongIsland.com has been around since 1996. So it's really an early adopter for online advertising for businesses and people traveling. But it was primarily a business directory. So they were primarily selling a basic listing, sponsored listing, and a featured listing. And given my background in the team, one of the things that got us so excited was, over delivering on value for people trying to get in front of the Long Island audience. One example, which you might appreciate, is just on email marketing. They were doing one newsletter every Friday, and that was it. So when I said we're going to start doing a daily newsletter, they were like shocked. Well, what do you mean? We only send an email on Friday. Well, this is a new world. So we've adjusted and pivoted as we started to discuss, like any good entrepreneur does, and change the business model around what's going on. And then, of course, 8 to 10 months after the acquisition closed, we got hit with COVID. So we're one of the top places for things to do and places to go on Long Island, and we were on lockdown. So it was a double-edged sword because our traffic was going up because people weren't going out. They weren't getting the newspaper. They were looking to consume content. But a lot of our clients run the gamut, from professional services, catering hall, tourism, retail. A lot of the venues were closed. So they weren't looking to advertise because they couldn't have anyone come into their venues. So, we figured out ways that we can help these businesses. We launched in conjunction with WBAB and BLI. We listed a free job board with the guys from eGifter and Huntington. We launched a gift card platform, through LongIsland.com. And now, of course, with the summer behind us and going into the fall, things, thank God, seem to be getting back to normal, where the advertisers are coming back and new ones are coming on. And it's interesting, people are really into that hyper local advertising. While we have obviously competitors, what's a unique differentiator for us is, it doesn't matter what your category is, but if you're buying on Newsday or News 12 and you're getting 100,000 impressions, 1 million impressions, you may never see your advertisement or engage or be able to consume it. Where while we're still hitting millions and millions of Long Islanders, the people working with us get to see their content, they get to consume it, and they hear from people in the community, hey, like I'm surprised. Our office is in Nassau, and I do go into Suffolk County, but it's interesting to see some of the events that we post, east of 110. Those people have told us, people have come specifically. I mean, something as simple as a Burger King opening, that they're coming to it because they found it on LongIsland.com. And that's been really inspirational for us to continue to offer all these different ways for people on Long Island and advertisers off of Long Island who want to get in front of Long Islanders to engage and get involved with these constituents.
That's great. That's great. I mean, the overall digital ad industry has gone through a lot of ad formats over the years. With sort of the ad format of maybe it's of the decade. I don't know, but certainly, I guess more recently, there's been a lot of excitement about video. Both sort of the standard pre-roll, mid-roll type video advertising, but also interesting forms of branded content video. Have you been hearing from your advertisers that they want to go into the video advertising more heavily as well?
Yeah, they've asked us our capabilities and resources to produce. It's something that they know of, but they don't know, and they know enough to know that they can't do it themselves. And unfortunately, sometimes they don't have depends on the size of the customer for the budget and what they could do with a 1 or 2 camera shoot or what's available. It's funny you mentioned the video. We've been testing with our LongIsland.com drone. We put up the drone, we get some fascinating photos out east, sunrise, the fog, people, the animals in the water, and the engagement is enormous. So they see that. And it's interesting. A lot of our clients have video. They just don't know that it could be repurposed. So it could be, Scotto Brothers with 9 restaurants on Long Island, steakhouses, sushi, Italian, what have you. And they've got beautiful video on their Instagram, on their website. But what I'm learning is, if we don't communicate, and I'm not just singling them out, it's a lot of them. If we don't reach out to them and say, let us use this content, sometimes you don't have to recreate the wheel. Just take what's there and repurpose it or create segments out of it. So we've been, over delivering and under promising in that we'll go in, and if someone has a beautiful video, like we work with Sangria 71, they do paella in your backyard for a private party. It's one thing to talk about that and write about it, but when you see the video of the 30, 40 gallon pan and people doing it, or the sushi party where they do the hibachi in your backyard, that video is highly engaging. So yes, there's more people asking for it. I don't see the budgets there for there's a budget for everything, but depends on the production. But we're also seeing that they have assets at their disposal and they don't even realize that it can be used.
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing on the consumer side is it used to be you would get ranked on as a business person for trying to do low production quality video. But in the right format now, especially with social media, the sort of iPhone or Android phone shot video that's sort of the authentic, business person can actually work really well for some brands. It doesn't work for every brand, but I think there are a lot of brands, small, local brands included, and even some fairly big brands that can make the low production value video work for them, right? And I think there's still a lot of room for experimentation there. Obviously, those in the New York area were familiar with a lot of brands that became pretty big that had their leading executive become the spokesperson, whether that was Crazy Eddie or Tom Carvel,
right? Or Dollar Shave Club. Even getting into the more modern times.
Absolutely. So and you can empower your bring your customers in. You can bring your empower your employees if you've got a charismatic employee. So I think there's still a lot to be done within the video category, including branded content. You guys may be able to find a local Long Island influencer and empower them to be essentially a roving reporter, perhaps.
Right. We're seeing a lot of in the food space, of course, with these foodies that are out there again. And to your point with the production, if you know what you're doing with the lighting, or holding a piece of pizza the right way makes it look 5 times larger than it is on an image. So, and some people are afraid. We just got to put it out there and see how your users and consume it and what they do with it.
Exactly.
The numbers don't lie. The impressions, the clicks, and the shares, they are what they are.
Exactly. So, what's your vision for the for LongIsland.com? It seems like it's got both a content and directory vision. Do you have any other things you're experimenting with that you're excited about?
Yeah, I'm really trying to build out some of these verticals or other properties that we have. You know, I'm humbled to compare us or try to become like an IAC, but I look at our portfolio of what we can be. LongIslandWineries.com or Long Island schools or Long Island colleges. We're already organically ranking in the top 5 for all of these keywords. I know, admittedly, someone doesn't want to tell you have an ugly baby. Some of these websites are dated and need refreshing, but I have 6 pages of domain assets and sites that we can look at to build. Stonybrook.com is a built site that hasn't been touched in probably 5 years. So I really envision it as a really strong media platform, one to be reckoned with, hitting more than the 3.5 million people here on Long Island, Queens as well, and tapping into Manhattan. There are people that live in Manhattan that play on Long Island, and there are people that live on Long Island that play in Manhattan. And I think since '96, there hasn't been much focus in Manhattan. But I think there's, great opportunity. But building out these, as you know firsthand, building out these properties, it's easy to throw together a WordPress site and have some content, but it's more to it than just get the site up. But that's what I think is exciting, is being able to leverage and own the digital real estate when people are looking for so many various Long Island terms.
Right.
Just a question of picking which one to focus on, which one has the highest search volume, the best, ROI, and what you can do with it. Either lead generation, strictly advertising, with Long Island catering halls, which I'm happy to report. We're actually seeing we get the leads when someone's booking a birthday party, a wedding, an anniversary, a corporate party. So you'll see someone, Kevin will come in and fill out 5 leads for 5 different venues, and that's picking up, which is, good for us to see on this front.
That's great. Do you see any leading indicators that the holiday party will return? Corporate holiday parties and personal holiday parties will return.
We're seeing a few. I don't think the numbers are that great yet. It may be a little bit too early, but I would say on average for corporate parties, we're maybe seeing 2 or 3 a week coming in now. And we definitely have 100+ catering venues that can support it. But it takes up a lot of time, I guess, with a name like LongIsland.com as the official, .com of the island. We get inquiries for death certificates. Someone belonged to a tennis club in the 70s looking. So someone's contacted us. They left their phone on the train in Babylon. We helped them retrieve it. And I explained to them, we're not the MTA, So that in and of itself is just a part-time job with all the inbound inquiries.
Well, we've certainly seen across our Long Island client base. We've got sort of a Long Island client base, which is quite strong, and we've got a more national footprint. But within the Long Island client base, we've certainly seen a big interest in utilizing social media more heavily. A lot of our clients are, perhaps a little bit later to the game when they become prospects, and we explain to them how powerful social media can be and how the brand to some extent needs to be a little bit of a publisher, right? They need to think about owned media, earned media, and then amplifying things with paid media. So it seems like you've positioned LongIsland.com and its properties to allow them to to take advantage of both sort of an owned media perspective with their business profiles, but also then, of course, amplify things with paid advertising. So yeah, I think you're really well positioned for the marketers who are looking to engage with the local audiences, on a B2C level. Have you been thinking about the B2B at all? I mean, obviously there are some players in the B2B category on Long Island that have sort of carved out their niche, and there's a lot of B2B companies on Long Island.
Yeah, given my background, a lot of people just expected that I would be playing in the B2B space. One of the domains I had owned since maybe 98, 99. I've always owned libusiness.com, but with this acquisition, we actually were able to acquire longislandbusiness.com. So we have launched, less than a year ago, longislandbusiness.com, which is more of a B2B play, more news, more real estate, healthcare, finance, accounting, those categories that you would typically think about. Again, when you Google Long Island attorneys, we're ranking 2 or 3. So, we're getting that traffic. Now it's just a question of when we're meeting potential B2B advertisers, we're also explaining LongIsland.com works because those consumers own businesses, they do need those services, but understanding what they're looking for, we've launched those type of verticals. And we even have some specific ones. Like we may have 4 or 5 moving clients, and we own LongIslandMovers.com. So now we're starting to look at building out those verticals again, specifically to cater to those needs for lead gen, advertising, video content, engagement, podcasts, email marketing, the whole gamut, so that they don't feel like they're being blended, but it's a specific niche site to address what they're looking for.
Great. So how about the Bagel Biz? How's that been doing? I mean, you're a restaurateur yourself. Obviously, you have the advantage of using your own publishing property to help announce your store openings and try to take advantage of that. I would imagine bagels is one of those categories where you probably they're a staple to some extent, right? So maybe they're behaving a little bit more like QSR, because I've heard good things from restaurant owners in the QSR category in comparison to sort of the sit down, lock the people in a room together kind of dining.
Yeah, we currently have Bagel Boss has 14 locations. We've have 10 on Long Island, 4 in the city, and 1 actually opening in Teaneck, New Jersey. So we have 15 locations. So it's an interesting history because, again, I started working for Bagel Boss when I was 15, 16 years old in 1988. And as they continued to grow and I had my own professional career, I always said to my dear friend Adam, who's the Bagel Boss, there's a fruit of the month, there's a wine of the month. We got to do a bagel of the month. And 10, 12 years ago, he grunted, you build it and I'll supply you with the product. So I've had bagelofthemonthclub.com for probably about 10 years. And I was literally leveraging their footprint to be able to utilize digital media, get the orders. And to your point, it's such a comfort food. And, we were doing well. It was a nice, mid 6-figure business. But when COVID hit, business spiked up 2,000%. We were shipping 7,000 to 10,000 bagels a week from New York all across the country, every state, Hawaii, Alaska. We ship FedEx, so it gets there the next day. And Adam, who's a dear friend of mine, I'm basically, let's say what it is. I'm buying bagels from him and getting the orders, and he's shipping it for me. So, and we have a great relationship. So for 6 years, I've tried to become a partner in the venture. And when COVID hit, he's like, come to my store now. I come to the store. He's all these people, boxes, FedEx trucks. He said, you're doing all this. You're not paying rent. You're not paying employees. You're not enduring all these expenses. And I said, make me a partner. Let me invest, and we'll put everything together, the .com and the stores, and we'll grow the business. And that's what we did about a year ago. So I became a full partner a little over a year ago. We've now taken the .com business, into the store. And COVID, quite frankly, it impacted the New York City stores because they lost a lot of that corporate breakfast and lunch every day. I mean, significant losses. But on Long Island, the suburbs, the business, to your point about being QSR and not a sit-down restaurant, the business has ticked up because people weren't traveling. They weren't going European vacations. The kids weren't going to summer camp. And the .com became that, on Long Island at least, it became that 11th store. So we didn't have to lay off people. We didn't have to worry about closing because we were fulfilling the online orders. Now that obviously we're hopefully getting out of COVID and people out and about, we're not shipping 10,000 a week, but the orders are still strong. And it's still that whole, point of whether it's a college student, a colleague, someone that hasn't been in New York for so long. Once they get our package and they open it and they smell whether it's an everything bagel, a bialy, vegetable tuna, the emails and the testimonials about, my mailman's upset because he's been driving for 4 hours with this in his car and his stomach is growling. It's really heartwarming to be able to deliver a product that people actually, care about. And so actually in my early call today, someone's like, you're shipping the bagels the next day. Aren't they a day old bagels? And I said, when you're out of New York, they're not day old bagels. They're still New York bagels. And they're, we ship them, making them today, shipping them overnight. You're going to have them tomorrow. And I will promise that a New York bagel out of New York is still better than a bagel made, that day in any other state.
Yeah, I think my response to him was, how about those store bagels you get in the shop, right? How many days ago you think those were baked?
Right. After you toast them from the freezer section.
Yeah, right. I mean, those were baked probably 3 weeks ago. So, then there's non-frozen ones in the sleeves as well. Which who knows how many days old those are. Obviously, it's easy to resuscitate a bagel, and all of us have had, we rarely get our bagel the day of. I mean, you have the advantage of essentially having your own kitchens, so you can get them hot out of the oven anytime you want.
Yeah, but you can't ship them hot because then you have moisture
No, I
issues.
know you get condensation.
There really is a science to
Yeah.
shipping these. People think it's so simple, and to be honest, it's $49.95 a dozen bagels anywhere in the United States delivered. But people are like, you crazy? Then they package it themselves and go to the FedEx store. They go, oh, the freight alone is $80. That's why we do what we do.
Exactly. So, do you end up just using the existing store staff and repurposing during a little lull? Like obviously, a day in the life of a bagel store is a couple of peak periods. Crunch time in the morning, crunch time at lunch, maybe a little bit of a dinner rush if they stay open for that, depending on their location, right? So, are you able to repurpose and efficiently use those staff during those down periods to run the
Yes.
.com?
I mean, we do have, FedEx is coming at a certain time. And to your point, they want to get the orders done before there's a line out the door. Of the 14 stores, 2 of them are 24 hours still. We used to have 3 that were 24 hours, but there is still big wholesale business and schools and whatnot. So we do ship out of one of our 24/7 locations. And as long as, they have the orders and the labels, everything's done and packed usually by 1 p.m. But most of the stores, especially with COVID, are operating 6 to 4. So to your point, it's not like a dinner crowd or whatnot, but we are leveraging. But you'd be surprised if there are busy days ahead of us, and let's just say tomorrow we have to ship 15 babkas, 3 pounds of rucola. They need to prepare. It's not just always bagels, and they may not have back to the supply chain. Being able to have the product in stock. Thank God we haven't. I've heard other restaurants, even like calamari, they can't get or they can't import it from where they're getting it. But besides flour going up significantly since this whole pandemic, we've been, okay otherwise.
Great. Well, it's good to hear that your retail business is sort of solid and strong along with your digital publishing business.
Yeah, thank you. We actually just opened 2 new stores in Manhattan. One was 3 months ago, and one was about 6 weeks ago. So many people thought we were, insane for opening up, but we believe in Manhattan, and we're ready to double down. And we went from 2 stores to 4, and we believe that the city's going to come back. And there's certain things that are inevitable in life. They always say death and taxes, but it's also people like to eat bagels no matter what. So we're betting on that.
Well, I'd love to hear any success stories if you got them regarding the job board. And did it we're almost constantly in hiring mode because, as we close new business, we have to hire both senior level people, some of whom are being asked to commute back into the city again. And all of a sudden they realize, hey, maybe I want to get a great marketing job out on the island. So, I'd love to hear, and junior people, like bringing them up through the ranks is a lot of fun, mentoring them. If they've got a lot of talent, we're a great place for them to start. Our alumni are all over the place. We don't like to think of them as having abandoned the Did It brand because they're friendly with them, through their years, and we've seen them really grow and mature, and some of them have stayed with us also for many, many years. We have a high retention rate. So I'd love to hear how the job board has worked out for you, if there have been any success stories you're aware of.
Yeah, there's been not many that I'm aware of. I definitely get the emails like, hey, from electricians or even like the alternative solar power types of places. Hicks Nursery where they're looking for just work. So people have thanked us and said they found. I've also seen the traffic on that spike. Again, a combination of us and BAB, the radio station, putting it together. I want to say last I checked, we were averaging like 15 to 30,000 visits a month just on that spot, which came from nowhere. But I think we all believe in the same sentiment that it's even if you have it out there and even if you get inquiries, it's them showing up and wanting a realistic, opportunity, which I think is a big difference. Well, we're trying to build our team here also for LongIsland.com. And even in the retail bagel business, we'll post and we'll get 20, 30 resumes and half of them will show up and 2 will take the job and then they don't even show up after 2 days. So I think it's a vicious cycle that we're all experiencing, but I'm speaking to agencies and our clients and it's difficult. So I think that's a big problem. I think that in the supply chain, which we haven't touched upon, but that's devastating too. And I think we're going to, the consumer is going to hit the brunt of it. And then the average, those that have the employers, are going to have no choice but to create some hybrid model that are going to attract the right talent.
Do you feel like the governments and the universities could step it up with regards to making sure that the people, leave universities with the skills that they need to sort of operate in the new digital first world?
It's interesting you bring that up. I have 3 boys, 2 are in college, and, I'm definitely being a little biased here only because of my experiences, but my oldest son goes to High Point University in High Point, North Carolina. And the whole premise behind the school is that it's a life skills school. So at his school, they literally go to the classes and everything they're learning is about in business and how to communicate, and no cell phones at dinner. And so I don't know if there are many schools out there like that, but that's their mission and their MO. But I think it is important because, as we both have experienced firsthand, I've interviewed people that are looking at their phones during the interview. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Like, I'm talking to you. You can't take your head out of the phone during an interview. And I don't know if it's just not the proper teaching or the etiquette or what they just expect, or a different generation. But I think it should be I don't know about the government stepping in, but at the school level, it's important. They don't teach you the APR and how to balance a checkbook and how to look at your credit card statement. And these are the real life skills that you need to get by in this world.
Right. I mean, we've certainly seen, including among our clients, that the businesses have had to take up the slack, right? And that, the first, especially for fresh out of school, whether that's, vocational, people, in the case of where they're fresh out of high school and they just want to go get their hands dirty in some kind of a job, or fresh out of college, that it ends up being the employer that takes on the training role. And I think to some extent that's always been the case. I just feel like it's been more so recently that the employers have had to take up the slack. Right. And become the training grounds for their own employees.
Right. And then run the concern that once you train them and they're all set, then they may go somewhere else, right? Which is always the issue. But if you build the right culture and have the right business, that doesn't happen. But even in my early days, people would learn, know what to do, and then leave for 1.5, 2 times the pay from larger corporations. But that's also the benefit and disadvantage of being one of the first movers, right?
Exactly.
When you've got that opportunity.
Yeah, well, I think I sort of see it as one of the missions, right? Is they have to learn somewhere, right? And it's a matter of cherry picking out the talent that has the highest potential, and as long as it's good for both sides, they stay, right? When it's no longer good for both sides, one side's going to pull the trigger, or the other side's going to pull the trigger.
But like you said, when they leave the alumni, it's always good. And I used to joke that Prime Visibility was Prime University, because they come, they learn, and then they go, and people just hire them for more. But now, 15, 20 years later, to see where these people are working, it's very heartwarming. Some of them are at Did It, some of them are at Amazon, some of them are at, Conductor, some of them are at, Google. And it's heartwarming to think that they didn't know a title tag from a clothing tag, in 1998, 1999. And now they're running major businesses.
Yeah. Like I said, I have to look at the positive side of how rewarding that is, really, to sort of, because, when you reach a certain age, you've had a chance to see your alumni go and spread their wings in many cases. But there are also some that, continue to be really valued members of the team, have been with us for many years. And even though you're not at Prime Visibility anymore, I think there's still a core crew there, if I'm remembering correctly.
There's a handful that are still there. The third hire is still there. The second or first hire just left about a year ago, since 1999. But yeah, there's about a handful that are definitely still there from the early days.
Right. So is there anything that industry-wide, either from the perspective of new ad units or certain social media channels, that you're excited about? That seems like audio got a little bit of a pop, especially with Clubhouse. I think that's cooled down a lot. Certainly, we're doing a video podcast now, but we'll be creating an audio version of it as well. Is there anything that you sort of see on the horizon that you're sort of excited about?
I mean, I don't know, it's definitely not new, but what I'm excited about is I'm really learning more about this whole programmatic advertising and platform for LongIsland.com. So again, I'm the first to admit that I don't know what I don't know. So I know enough to be dangerous, but I'm doing my due diligence and setting up, meeting with the right people. But, for my friends at this, from Discover Channel or, Sinclair, that they can't believe that we're not doing programmatic. So I've been told enough times to start looking at it. So I know it's not cutting edge technology, but I'm personally excited about that. And then just some of these other ways, like we work with Outbrain and some other, content monetization tools that, whether it's an email now, we're looking at some other things to generate revenue with, put out the content and then let the tools do their work to generate the revenue.
Right, right. Well, one thing that I'm hearing from all the other publishers that I talk to is that with the continued disappearance of the third-party cookie, that the email address and registration data at publishers is becoming increasingly valuable within the programmatic stack, as well as outside of the programmatic stack, but particularly in the programmatic stack. So have email newsletters that you said you'd bumped it up from a weekly to a daily. Has email become sort of a focus, an increased focus for you as a result?
Yes. Yeah. I think our open rate is like an average of, 13, 16%. The list has increased probably 200% since we started, and leveraging the different resources and abilities. We could say enter to win free bagels for a year. And, we're trying to get, because they all know locally, so we're trying to leverage either the advertisers or our own properties to do email acquisition. We'll be at a trade show this week. So we're doing what we can and leveraging those relationships. But I do see it becoming, we haven't really hit in, and I know it's on our radar, more for the Bagel Boss and Long Island, but the SMS and the text messaging, I definitely feel like it's still invasive. There's very a handful of text messages that I get, inbound. And when I do, I feel like, if I didn't ask for it, why are you sending it to me? So I'm a little apprehensive about just, unleashing it for our businesses, but that's something we are investigating.
Great. It was wonderful catching up. I look forward to seeing the continued evolution of LongIsland.com, and I'll have to grab a bagel next time I pass a Bagel Boss.
Absolutely. Please do. Thank you, Kevin.
Thanks so much for joining me.
Kevin Lee's Power Marketing is available on all your favorite podcast networks. Kevin loves helping businesses excel at marketing. Having marketing challenges? Just like Santa in the Miracle on 34th Street, if Kevin can't help you, he'll know someone who can. Find him on LinkedIn, subscribe, or follow.